Welcome to the Emblazing Leaders Vodcast. I'm your hostess, Dr. Talisa Sullivan. Join me as we hear from leaders across diverse fields around the world. Good morning, Andratesha. How are you today?
Doing well. Thank you, Dr. Talisa, for having me on.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to have you. You have been around me personally for years now, and I am so excited every time we get together. It's like magical energy. I think from the first day that I met you, I felt like we were connected. And so I'm super, super excited to have you on Emblazing Leaders with Dr. Talisa. You always pour into me, and I'm super excited for you to pour into our Emblazing leaders out there, those that listen audio to the audio, or for those who actually like to watch to see how we engage this synergy, right? So thank you and welcome. I actually want our audience to know who you are. So if you don't mind, I'd love to do an introduction of who we have before us today. And so are you good with that?
Oh, yeah, that's wonderful for me. Thank you so much.
Okay, so let me just, I'm gonna pull a piece from the Bible, but I just want people to know that you are my sister. And even though we don't have the same
Mhm.
mother and father, you are my sister. So I'm telling the Emblazing leaders out there that Andrew is my sister forever and ever. You know how you have those friends that are seasonal? This is not seasonal. This is something that's gonna be forever. So that's first
Locked
and
in.
foremost. And she's a CEO and founder of Building Blocks of Brilliance. That is brilliant. Building blocks of brilliance. And she is an educational leader, just amazing. And I just want you to know that she is an author. She's a speaker. She's a consultant. She's a mom. She's a wife. She's a friend. She is amazing. And she has just been instrumental in my growth. And I'll say that as an international speaker and facilitator, she's known for her audacious presence. She challenges organizations to become truly inclusive and safe for all learners, not just one or two, but all learners. And she, again, is the founder of the Building Blocks for Brilliance. Building Blocks for Brilliance. That's a tongue twister, but it's brilliant. I'll say that. And so outside of her professional work, she is a self-proclaimed book nerd,
Mhm.
Jeopardy enthusiast, and she has an imagination out of this world. So please put your virtual and not virtual hands together for Andratesha Fritzgerald, my friend, my sister. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It is such an honor, not just to be here on the podcast, but to do life together. We
Yay.
live in different parts of the United States, but we always put in the intentional effort to connect, whether it's you getting up at 4 a.m. to meet me at 7 a.m.,
Yes.
or on the later end of things, me at 9 p.m. if it's your, now I'm doing math, 6 p.m. But
Yes.
you put the time in to connect. So I just want to thank you for who you are, who you have been, both in my life and to educational leaders all over the country and beyond. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And I agree. I'm like, I'll be like setting my alarm 4 a.m. All right, I got it. I set that alarm every time. I know I'll be late sometimes. I'm just like waking up and I'm like, it's Tisha time, right? So but I do appreciate us also. Again, we are from different parts of the country and we are intentional. We want to teach you how to be intentional too. You have to intentionally pull the people into your life that are going to pour in and that you're going to pour back. We need reciprocity in our relationships. And so even though this video podcast is not necessarily about reciprocity, we could talk a little bit about that too. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. We're gonna jump in if you're
Okay,
ready. We're
let's
we're,
do it.
we're gonna bring our emblazing leaders. We're gonna take them on a journey. And this conversation may go anywhere, y'all, because Tisha and I we are sisters and we talk all the time. But I'm gonna ask you, Tisha, about navigating the leadership space because one of the things that inspired me to actually jumpstart this video podcast and to be relentless about making sure that I have leaders on that can pour into our audience is being able to navigate some space that I have never experienced before. So I'm like, if I am experiencing this, I know our emblazing leaders out there want to know, how do I navigate this? So can you tell me more about your leadership journey and what would you say that has shaped you as a leader, especially as you navigate the space?
I would say that what what has shaped my journey as a leader literally started when I was 16 years old. I
Mm-hmm.
was in a youth group at my church, and I had gone to the leader of the youth group, and I said, I have a vision. There's something I would like to do. I want to host a retreat for about 100 youth. And so she listened diligently to me. And
Mm-hmm.
then it was a conversation one day. And then she said, okay, we'll talk more about it. And I thought that at that point, that maybe she was dismissing me, or maybe that it wasn't on the radar, or maybe it would come back up. So about a month after that conversation, she came back to me with a grant application. It was paper at the time. I'm not going to tell you how many years ago this was, but it was a paper grant application. And she said, you said you wanted to do a retreat. Now we have to find a way to fund it. So she leaves me in a room with this grant application. And then I went back to her office and said, what's an expenditure? But it was the first time where I realized that when you cast vision as a leader, when you share, this is what's on my heart, or this is what I want to see happen, that people will come alongside you and see your vision and maybe give you feedback that maybe you don't want or you don't like, but it will lead to seeing that vision come to pass. So I got my first grant for $4,000 when I was 16 years old. This set me on a trajectory to say, if there's something in my heart that I feel is important, and if I'm picking up, because I'm an empath, if I'm picking up something that others need and others want, and I'm championing the cause that is in their hearts, then it will always, always, always find a way to happen. Now, as a leader, I have to be diligent to steward the vision that's given to me, diligent to steward the energy around that vision that comes from others,
Mm-hmm.
but always stay the course, that people will believe in leaders who are called to a task. And I feel like that shaped who I am as a leader. I'm always listening to find out what people want and what people need. I'm always looking at what behavior is communicating and what struggles are communicating to me as a leader. What do we need to shift or change in the organization? And so from that young age of 16, where I could pick up on the needs of those around me, and then present it as, here's a way that we can maybe have a solution or a multi-solution to some of the areas that may be frustrating. This is the same way that I worked as a curriculum specialist when I'm talking with teachers to see, okay, what are the frustrations, but what are the needs? How do we build
Mm-hmm.
those together and create these environments where co-design leads to co-celebration? And that's really
Mm.
what shapes our leadership, which I think what binds us together is that we're always trying to see what is the win. We're honest about what are the issues, and then we're diligent to make sure that other voices are captured and building the bridge in between.
You said so much, and I'm going to tell you the first thing that I actually heard you say, and it really captured me, was the casting the vision. And the reason why
Mhm.
that captured me is because a lot of times we hesitate to cast our vision because we're not sure what people are going to do with that. But we need to cast that anyway. And I'm hearing you say cast that vision regardless, because what it might result in is, something that you envisioned, right? And it's like
Absolutely.
a lot of times as leaders, especially as young leaders, we cast a vision. People don't want to hear the vision because we're young and they don't think we know. But you had someone who listened. And that was another thing that you talked about. You talked about listening. You talked about stay in the course, don't deviate from the plan. And it's funny that you talk about stay in the course because my daughter is in musical. We both have kids in musical theater, so that's
Yes.
another thing that kind of ties us together. And I can't watch from over there, but I'm rooting. But one of the things that I remember her saying too, and this part stood out for me, was she said, "Mom, you always deviate from the plan." I was like, "What? Me?" She was like, "Yes," because I always say you got to work. Like how we grew up. It was ingrained in us. You have to work a 9 to 5. So I work a 9 to 5 because that was ingrained in me.
Mhm.
Well, we have a different generation, right? And this generation of kids, they're not working nine to fives. They're entrepreneurs. They're doing some other stuff, some next level stuff. And so as I'm trying to ingrain in her what was ingrained in me, it's like bucking back. I'm like, whoa. And so we got to stay the course. That's what I heard you say.
I so respect that about the new generation that's in the workforce. I respect the fact that they are very upfront and open. I spent some time as human resources director, and I remember interviewing a young lady. She was 23 years old, and so she came in. We asked her the interview questions and talked to
Hmm.
her for a while, and then she said, "Well, before you asked the question at the end, do you have any questions for us?" She said, "Well, yes. Okay, so what is the salary? How much is deducted for benefits?" She asked these questions, and I said, "Well, normally we don't discuss that on the first date, but tell me what it is that is the motivation behind the questions." I had to lean in a little bit to hear more. Sometimes in interview situations or in leadership situations, we can dismiss people because we think they're being defensive or they're being
Yeah.
obstinate, but really they're revealing to us their priorities. And so she just said, "I need to know if this position matches with my lifestyle." And it was something that I hadn't heard in an interview before, and I chuckled and I laughed. But I did take the time after the interview team. I asked them, if they had any more questions, they could leave. But I spent about 15 minutes just hearing this young lady's heart, her ambitions, what she wanted to do. What she didn't want to do was take a position if it's only about money, then DoorDash can provide that, or something that's more on the gig economy. And she wanted to make sure this was something that matched her lifestyle, her ambitions, what she wanted to do in the future, something that was meaningful to her. If we don't ask probing questions to find out the perspective of those who we're entrusted to lead, even if it's an interview situation, we miss the richness of the perspective that can enhance the organization. And so I would just say lean into those voices that seem like they are counterproductive. Lean into those voices who are introducing a narrative that may push the organization to think differently. Lean into those voices that feel like a challenge for the status quo that some of us are really comfortable keeping in place. And when we lean into those challenging voices, we emerge with so much more enriched, and we can lead from a more diverse um, in or an enhanced viewpoint.
That's so good. And I know that we're not on on the next question yet, and I'm okay with that because I want to talk about this because you talked about human resources. So I'm
Hmm.
getting ready to like derail our original conversation because this is a part of our conversation. But you talked about human resources, and I'm really stuck with thinking about the concepts of how people try to hire people that are like them. We gotta hear what we're saying, lean in. Audience and blazing leaders, you heard Andratesha say lean in and ask questions and inquire, because the young lady that she interviewed, what she was trying to do was find out if it matched her lifestyle. And I also heard you say that we have to stop with the status quo, and that is if people don't match what we think that the ideal person is, we have to look around and be innovative about our choices, diverse. We bring in diverse perspectives. It's okay for people to challenge um, your concepts or your thought process or your ideas, because that's what makes it better. So we as leaders have to stop thinking that the challenge is defiant or disrespectful, because we have a different wave of students. They're not being defiant or disrespectful, they're being them. We in I think I'm Gen X, right? I think I'm Gen X. I always forget. I think I'm Generation X. Is that right? Are we Gen X? Yeah. Anyway, whatever generation we are, we were taught to be seen and not heard. We couldn't really challenge the authority, challenge the status quo. But as we teach our youngsters how to challenge, and not to be disrespectful or defiant, but to challenge, to be inquiring, inquisitive, and to challenge because you want things to be better, as we teach them that, we got to teach the older generation that this is what that looks like and that it's okay for them to challenge that.
And also encourage each generation that's in the workforce, because now the workforces have about 5 generations
Yeah.
represented. That it's okay to ask questions, that you don't have to have a meeting after the meeting, that it's okay to present a counter view. Because when folks are comfortable in that seen and not heard space, or go along to get along space, it really pulls from the value of the organization. And so, one of the things that I constantly try to come back to, especially when we're thinking about human resources, talent management, and workforce development, is what does it mean when we say someone is or is not a fit for our organization? Does
Yeah.
having a fit for the organization mean that we're looking for compliant minds that won't push back, that won't ever share a counter viewpoint? Or are we looking for those who will be innovative in our spaces and say, here's a way to think about that? But also, do we see as a fit those who take some time to learn who we are as an organization, or point out places in the organization where we're having an identity crisis? Here's what we say we are, here's what we do. And then many times it takes those who are newer to the organization or to the workforce to point out those contradictions that really keep us from thriving. And so, how do we make space for that conversation so that doesn't only come up in times of conflict? How do we make space for that conversation on an ongoing basis so that we can hear from those who are new to the organization, hear from those who are there for just a short time, and then hear from those who have been there a long time, with the interest of how do we serve, particularly in educational settings, how do we serve our students, our families, and our communities best?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for leaning into that, because we needed to hear that. I know somebody out there needed to hear that today. I'm going to move forward. We're going to talk about experiencing triumph.
Okay.
But what we're going to talk about it through the lens of uncertainty, right? And is, how do
Mhm.
you approach decision making during times of crisis or uncertainty?
In times of crisis and uncertainty, it is so important as leaders that we offer what is certain and that we share um, options so that people can feel the stability of the organization, even when times are fluctuating or in crisis. Um, I was the human resources director, but I still had a hand in curriculum right
Mm,
at the start of the pandemic. And so this is a time where we didn't really know all of the information about what COVID-19 was. We
right,
knew that the governmental agencies in the state where I am had decided to, at that time, what we knew was that school would be closed for an extended spring break. It ended up being the rest of the school year, but we didn't know that at that time.
right.
And so, what was most important is that we solidified, here's what we do know, here's
Hmm.
what we can do, and here are the things that we want to invite your brainstorm or your questions about. When we are honest about what we know and we don't know, it gives space for innovation that is not um, a knee jerk reaction. And so we take time to navigate, we inquire to find out what people need and what they want, and we take care of the humans that are entrusted to us. That humanity, I feel like when we lean into the humanity, we are careful to make sure that we are not in a panic. You cannot manage panic when you are in a panic yourself. And so every leader owes it to those who they serve to do a self inventory on what are your biggest fears, what are your biggest triggers or sensory areas, and how do you navigate those personally? And then to make sure that those who you are working with, that you see them as humans before you see them as members of just the workforce. So, being clear about what is certain, being honest about what is uncertain, gives you a springboard to kind of design in a space where things are uncertain.
Thank you. I heard you say transparency, even if you
Hmm.
didn't say the word. You said, you know what, we just have to be honest,
Hmm.
about what's certain, and honest about what's uncertain. And it's difficult, because sometimes we're in a position where we're told, like, what I know how we are. We just want to tell people like it. We want to be like, hey, this is the reality, and this is what's happening. And then you have someone who might be your supervisor that might say, well, you don't want to give everybody all the information. And I get that. So I don't want to discredit that. But it's difficult. So what we have to do is be clear about what's uncertain. Like, here, we're uncertain about this, be transparent all the time. The other thing that I heard you say was lean into humanity.
Mhm.
And one of the things that in lots of organizations that I've worked in, they talk about being human centered. And then things don't happen to make you feel like you're human, and you ask questions about it, and then they still may not lean into humanity. And so, for those organizations out there that do, people need to feel like they matter, and that's important. And
Absolutely.
so, I think what I'm hearing you say, as you make decisions during times of uncertainty and crisis, like, people need to feel like they matter.
Absolutely. And I just want to share a story that I think explicates this. So, during the pandemic, we would have staff meetings. And naturally, the teachers will have lots of questions about, okay, how are we supposed to communicate with parents? We're making this big shift. And I remember one of the principals coming to me saying, okay, I have the information that we're going to share with the teachers,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to tell you the truth. I feel a little nervous about what their response is going to be. I
Okay.
said, well, here's what we'll do. um, we can go over it together, whatever you need, but I'll attend with you. And any questions that you feel are difficult, you can volley them to me. So I'll respect your leadership. You can do what it is that you feel that you can do. And anything that you feel is beyond your realm, or you just feel like, I don't want to take this on, at any time you feel that you need to volley it to me, I will be with you. And
Mm-hmm.
when I made that available to this one principal, I realized that maybe others are feeling this way, and I didn't want to have to wait for them to articulate it. So the human-centered approach is, I will make this available to all principals. And if you would like me to attend all of the staff meetings for every school in the district, um, we just have to coordinate the schedule, but I'm willing to do that because I care about you. And then we'll follow up together, get a communication plan. And we did this a number of times, not
Mm-hmm.
because they couldn't handle it on their own, but because they shouldn't have to. And so when we are leading, sometimes there will be ebbs and flows where we have to maybe extend ourselves a bit to take care of those who are leading in our charge. So it was just one of those examples where I was so grateful that the principal could articulate what he was trepidatious about and then trust
Mm-hmm.
me to walk alongside. This is the way that I feel like I work best, when I have a leader who is willing to walk alongside me, not leave me out to hang to dry when leave me out to dry when the news is hard and the response is going to be rough, but to stand with me and to walk with me and then coach me through how I can better respond in the future so that this is not a fear. And so the more we can be honest and transparent about what the barriers are, whether it's in leadership, whether it's in communication, or whether it's a
Mm-hmm.
situation at hand, then we can begin to design together, to co-design, to make sure that the goal is always reached. And we can do that with our connections, with robust and clear communication, but also with the power of relationship.
You know what? I'm gonna call this out in your leadership because it's a testament to your leadership when you have individuals that report to you come to you and say, I need help, right? And I don't need help because I don't know. I need help because I'm uncertain, and I need the support. Because a lot of times what happens is when we tell leaders that we don't know or we're uncertain, they discredit us, and if they discredit us, we feel like, okay, wait, now they think I can't do my job when I actually can. I just need some extra support. So I appreciate that because we don't always walk into situations knowing exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And if we can't lean on the individuals that work with us for support because we don't feel comfortable or confident because of their potential response, then we need to question our leadership in that vein. And that's one of the and I do question when I've had people tell me before, so I'm not calling anyone else out. I'm calling myself out because that's what I do because I want to be better. I've had people say, this is not psychologically safe. I don't feel like you've created a psychologically safe environment. It's been very few. And then I've had people definitely approach me to say, I don't know what environment they're in because you do create a safe environment. But for that one person, they didn't feel the psychological safety. So the question is, what do you need so that you can feel safe? And those are the things that we have to ask instead of being defensive, like, oh, well, it's not safe, so I couldn't ask you. Okay, well, what do you need in order for you to be able to come to me? Because my role as a leader is to really provide that psychological safety. And it's to give you an opportunity to come to me in times of uncertainty and need. And if you can't do that, then I have to question, how am I showing up, right? Because we're servant leaders, right? We're
Mhm.
supposed to be serving our population and not the other way around. So thank you
Absolutely.
so much for your leadership. I appreciate that.
And thank you for yours. I think that we always have space to grow,
Yes.
and relationships while we are on a course, particularly to serve students, whether it's in K-12 or higher ed, when we're here to serve communities and families, that relationships truly make the work quality. And relationships are just complex. There is not going to be one note. And relationships, because we are humans, are always shifting and changing. There are always dynamics. There are always changes in the organization. Maybe the priorities of the organization shift or change a bit. And so when we come back to this idea of leadership and support, we also have to know that there's complexity that shifts the tone or the color of what that relationship feels like and looks like. But if
Mm,
we set this foundation of truth, and I think Kim Scott calls it radical candor, when we have this
mm,
radical candor where we won't sugarcoat, but we won't use this ruinous type of like brutality, but we have this truth and love and or truth and concern for our relationships that are always commingled. This is how we build toward better, that we build toward goals. We have space for truth, but it's always rooted in you're a human, I'm a human. How do we work together to build this greatness that is our goal? Okay. Well, what I was saying about relationships is that we have to have both that truth and that consideration for humanity, both considerations commingled. And
mm.
radical candor means that we won't sugarcoat it, but we won't say it in brutality, but we come at it in a way that serves our goal, but also honors the humanity of the person that we're working with. This is leadership. We have to deliver hard messages sometimes, but hard messages don't mean that we don't have concern, compassion, or care for the person.
Mm.
It means that we are in service to the person enough to say the hard things, to help them to grow. And the expectation cannot be that everyone receives it with joy and gladness all the time. But this is why we have to build a relationship based on truth and love together so that they know that even if you don't like what I'm saying, at some point you will trust that I am building a greater you as you share back and teach me how to develop you and how to work with you. You'll teach me and then you'll receive from me. So no working relationship can work without both receiving and giving. It's the same in the classroom. It's the same in any relationships. There has to be an ability to receive, an ability to give, and those are the relationships where there is exponential growth.
Okay, so I heard truth and love, and all of my stories because we talk all the time, and I almost got really emotional. And so I'm not gonna go too in detail, but some of my experiences have been, I would say, not truths and
Mhm,
half a love, and
mhm,
it's and I want to put that out there because what you and I, Tisha, see as truth and love, I think those are realities, and that is we're going to tell people like, hey, this is what others are experiencing. There are going to be times where it doesn't matter what I'm experiencing. I might be the only person that's experiencing, and I've been in that situation before where I feel like, am I the only one that's experiencing this? Let me watch. And if I'm the only one experiencing it, then I might be in my feelings. But when all of us is experiencing this leadership and I won't even call it leadership, this management in a way that's micromanaged or whatever else is going on, then I want to be able to go to someone in truth and love and say, hey, this is what people are experiencing. This is what I'm experiencing. How can we move forward? I appreciate this so much because in my own experience, if people come at us without the truth and the love, we get something else, and it's called abuse, right? A lot of times people come in and um, they're really not trying to help you grow. So instead of offering you the support that's necessary for you to reach your self-actualization, transcendence, whatever your goals are, they're tearing you down, telling you you're not
mhm,
qualified, giving you other like subliminal messages to try to impede your confidence and those types of things. And if that is happening, leaders out there, that is not truth and love. Truth and love is if a person does not show up the way you need them to show up, how can you as a leader bring them to there? We got amazing leaders out there. And if we have amazing leaders out there that can rise to an occasion and you can't bring them there, that's a you problem as a leader. If you have an amazing leader that's not meeting your standard, I'm going to tell you that's a leadership problem. I'm going to say that again. If you have an amazing leader that's not meeting your standard and you're not giving everything that you have to ensure that they do, ask yourself, why can't I help? Why can't I offer more support? Those are some, that's just, maybe that's just me being personal right now.
No, I think that it's important to share that you can be an amazing leader in a not amazing situation. That
Yes.
you can be someone who's filled with vision, who has the answer for organizations, and be in organizations that are not ready to hear what you have to say or to really receive what it is that you have to give. This is where you have to do your personal inventory, because anything that's given to you, said to you, or about you has to go through this filter of what you accept as fact or truth, or what you
Yes.
take in on the inside. And what I say to every Emblazing leader in there is, before you accept any role or any position, know who you are.
Yes.
Know what you have to give. Know the areas that need bolstering and that you need to improve in, and be honest with you about those. You can be an amazing leader in a very trash situation. And so what I will say to you, if this is your situation, if this is the place where you are in right now, there may be something that you can do to lift others as you climb. There may be ways that you can take solace in um, building an ecosystem of trust and communication in your own sphere of influence, that you don't have to wait for. I know that um, Maxwell has this law of the lid that says you can't go higher than the leader that you serve under. And that may be true organizationally, but individually, you can grow, you can learn, you can listen, you can take in as many stories as you possibly can. You can endeavor to learn what people like, what people need, what people hate, what people can't stand. And you literally conduct a research study in that situation so that you don't replicate what is holding you back, and that once you are ready or launched, that you'll be able to soar. And so I just want to speak that today, that whatever has been holding you back is temporary. And if what has been holding you back is an individual, that cannot last forever. You are excellent. If you are excellent, you are excellent. It does not matter who believes it or what they have to say. It doesn't matter who is on a mission to tear you down or discredit you. Many times, in an effort to discredit you, they're actually giving you the validity that you need, but you just have to see it in the opportunity that it is. Nothing can stop you. There's a song that says, I'm all the way up. I'm gonna do my little hip hop dance. Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up. And there were many times I had to ride into work knowing what the barriers were, knowing what was seeking to destroy me, knowing what was trying to tear me down, but still tell myself, all the way up. I'm gonna call people up. I'm gonna lift people up. I'm gonna encourage the people that I can encourage. I am not going to be subject to negativity. I'm not gonna turn into something that I don't want to be. I'm all the way up. And when you're all the way up, there's no other way for you to go than up some more. And it doesn't matter what the lid is. It doesn't matter what the leadership does or what they decide. What matters is when you decide, here's who I am. This is what I'm going to be. And while I'm in this position, I'm going to learn as much as I can. I'm going to do as much as I can. I'm going to influence as much as I can, not to spite anybody, because this is who I am. I'm called to the work. I'm going to do this work. I'm going to lead this work. I'm going to love this work, because on the other side of the work that I do are children, are students in higher ed. And so it always brings me back to, I am purpose driven. And even when my purpose looks like it's being stumped out or thwarted, I come back to this purpose and know that if I have breath in my body, there's work for me to do. And every day that I can get better, that I can learn more, that I can love more, that I can lead better than I did yesterday is a success. So I divorce any ideas of success that are not aligned with who I am. This is emblazing leadership, because leading is not always roses and butterflies. It doesn't always end with the award on the stage. There are days where it is thankless, where it's invisible, where it's behind the scenes. But oh my goodness, there's such gratefulness that I bring into the work, because all I want to do is just encourage one person who feels like they can't keep going, like they can't go back. I want you to shift your perspective and realize that an emblazing leader has a sense of purpose, understands the calling on their own life, and then literally identifies that for others around them, whether it's the custodian or a secretary or a parent or a student, it doesn't have to be the formal things that are on the job description that elevate you as a leader. It's the informal things, it's the intangibles, it's those small human connections that go a long way. One of my greatest successes as a leader is seeing one of the paraprofessionals get their degree and move into the teaching ranks. And again, you give it, you encourage it, you let it go. It wasn't until I was doing a professional development at a different university that was not even connected with the district where I worked, where one of the students was in the class getting her master's that was that paraprofessional. I
Oh.
didn't know she was in the call because her camera was off. But at the end, she said, I have a question. And it was a fake question. She really wanted to just share the impact of these interactions that we had moving forward year after year, encouragement after encouragement. She was encouraged by me, literally quoted strategies that I used to talk to her about. And her encouragement came right back to me at a time where I was feeling like, does it make a difference?
Mm,
Is anything changing? Is anyone
mm.
listening? That encouragement came at the right time. And I said, keep going, purpose driven. So thank you.
I almost, and I'm not a crier, but I almost like lost a tear or two. They almost came streaming down because that's what this is about. Exactly
Yes.
what you just said. And I so appreciate hearing how you've made an impact. And I want the Emblazing leaders out there to know this is why I hang out with her. I'm
We
motivated
do
every time.
this.
It's reciprocity. We get reciprocity
Yes.
in this. And I get so many so much learning happens when I'm in the space with you, Tisha. It's just amazing. Like I get poured into, I hear leadership tips, I hear inspirational things. And I want you to, I mean, I just wish I could capture every single thing that you say so that I can actually implement that. So I have to engage with you a lot in order to like just be like, okay, I'm gonna try to do that. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate the impact that you make because yes, it is about that. It is about pouring into other individuals and having them climb with us. And as I
Yes.
talk about them climbing with us, I'm going to shift into that. We're going to talk
Mhm.
about advancing in careers because I
Mhm.
heard you say lift as you climb. That was one of the things
Yes.
that you said that. And I'll tell you in my own endeavors, as I'm learning, I still work a daytime job, but as I'm learning about consultancy and leadership, I learn a lot from you. So you are one individual, or there are many, but you are one of the individuals that have been very inspirational to me and very lifting as I try to climb. And for me, climbing doesn't necessarily mean superintendency, but what it means is climbing to the leadership ladder where I'm able to have an influence and whatever that
Mhm.
looks like, wherever I am, I want to have that influence. And I tell people all the time, I'm gonna do the work I do from whatever seat I'm sitting in. And if
That's
I
right.
walk into a space and the toilet is overflowing, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna fix whatever that is so that we can get that moving. It doesn't have to be, any, position or title. Of course, those are nice
Mhm.
because you can make more of an influence. That's why I like positions and titles, is because it gives us the opportunity to be in a seat where we're at the table. And sometimes if we're not at the table, we can't make the impact we need to make. So I'm climbing with you. And so we're talking about advancing in careers. So what key steps did you take? And as we talk about this, Tisha, I want us to talk with our Emblazing leaders again about not necessarily climbing to the superintendency, but if that's what they choose, we're talking about climbing whatever ladder they see as the next step. So, what
Mhm.
steps did you take early in your career that you believe were crucial for your advancement to a leadership position?
The funny thing about my trajectory is that I never aspired to any position that I was tapped for. And so
Mm,
when I was in the classroom, when I tell you I gave everything to that classroom because I wanted to be an excellent teacher, which
hmm
meant I spent a lot of time with my curriculum specialist or my assistant principal because I needed to know what's the expectation. I needed to get feedback. I needed to sometimes get materials or share ideas like, hey, I want to take my students here, I want to do this. I spent a lot of time, especially in those first 3 years, just learning and being
hmm
open and transparent about the fact that I want to learn. I want to serve these students as best I can. And the other thing that I would say for anyone who is aspiring to lead or to move up the ramp is to stop aspiring to move up and be excellent right where you are. The best way to advance is to be excellent in the position that you're in while having an awareness of what goes into creating excellence. And so, if you're a teacher, the best way to prepare for the next level is to see how you can energize your colleagues around a goal, how you can energize your students around a goal. And the more astute you become at that, the more you will be tapped for leadership positions. In my first 3 years, I taught during the day, but I also taught night school. I taught summer school. I taught Saturday school. And if they had Sunday school, I probably would have taught that too. But I learned very early that there are very many different kinds of students with different kinds of scenarios and situations. And while some teachers in the building were only comfortable with the college prep student,
Mhm.
I served the students who were non-traditional students. So they came in at 4 and stayed with me until 7. The students who were between 18 and 22, I was 21 years old. I was terrified they were going to find out how old I was, but I learned how
Mhm.
to serve them and to reach to them. Even when they were older than me, I was able to collaborate. So if the answer couldn't come from me, I could recognize quickly areas where I failed or where I wasn't making a connection. And instead of just staying in that rut saying, I can't connect with this student, I don't know what to do, I would connect with people who would connect with them already. This builds relationships. I keep talking about relationships, but as you think about what your next steps are going to be, there are key indicators that you're ready for the next step is that you have accomplished great things in the realm where you are. The excellence is associated with your work and your work ethic. The worst thing you can do if you are aspiring to lead is to be terrible where you are and say, I just want to escape this position or I want to escape this. If you do that, there are ways that you can escape, but I would submit to you that you will escape the current position without being able to generate the credibility that you need to actually lead. And so, my biggest piece of advice, and this is a little bit of a broken record, so I'm going to say it again, is be excellent where you are. Listen to the feedback that's coming, and this is the street data, if you will. When people say, oh, you are good at, or everybody knows you do, listen to those things, and that's giving you some indicators of where your leadership is taking you. And so, because I had energized, worked really closely with cross curricular teams as well
Mhm.
as vertical teams within my discipline, people were like, you need to be a curriculum specialist. And I'm like, well, actually, I need to make sure that these students have what they need. And then
Mhm.
I get the tap like, okay, if you would like to try it, we would love to give you an opportunity. And
Mhm.
at the curriculum specialist level, I'm working with other curriculum specialists, but I keep that pulse on teachers and students and seeing what they need and how do we make this happen? What does PD need to look like? And the shifts and the changes that we're making are attributed to those that I serve, not my ideas, but theirs in action. And then people see that and they tap me and say, you need to be at the district level. And I'm like,
Mhm.
but I really want to serve this building the best that I can. And so now at the district level, I'm serving a number of buildings. I'm listening to colleagues. I'm learning the business side, the contracts, the money, the things that I need to know, which is not a part of my job description, but it's a part of who I am to make sure I'm leveraging funds, that I'm being excellent, that I know that things may shift and change. But how do we make sure that this information is institutionally preserved?
Mhm.
Someone taps me and says, you should present outside of your district. And on and on and on it goes. I put my heart and soul into the work that is entrusted to me. And
Mhm.
because my goal is often mirroring the goals of those around me, then the goal becomes larger every time. So the way that you expand your leadership is to be excellent where you are, to serve the goals and the visions of those who are around you, and to mine for those who have the answers, have the voice, but just don't have the confidence and raise them up. This is leadership. Leadership is not cute, it's not pretty, it's not always recognized, but when you can mine for the brilliance and then build on that brilliance block by block, piece by piece, that is when your leadership becomes both essential and recognized by those who need it most. So, yeah, we got to just make sure that we're serving with excellence where we are and that will build the platform for you to go where it is that you're called to go. I never want to be out of place. I want to be exactly where I'm supposed to be, serving the people that I'm supposed to serve in the way that I am created to. I can't fit nobody else's mold. I can't be anybody else. I do not want to be. And when I found this joy and confidence in my leadership, it was because I was myself. I was very clear on what I knew and what I didn't know. And I had no problem giving credit, distributing work, but also receiving whatever it is that I need to receive as feedback from those who I'm serving, but also who have entrusted me to lead. And then we find that common ground over and over again. I'm a solutions girl. Tell me the problems. I'll let you fuss for a little while, but then I'm going to pull you into the committee because you're going to be part of the solution. But that's what we do.
I don't know if you saw my mic drop. I was like, mic drop, because this is why I keep you close. I don't know if that's selfish or what, but this is why I keep you
Well,
close.
you stuck with me regardless. You could try to get rid of me. I know where
Hey,
you
I
live.
would never try. We keep in each other because you said so many things, but one of the things that when you said, I'm going to be a broken record, you said be excellent where you are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that stood out because you are excellent. The other thing that stood out for me, just and it's so odd. Like I said, we've been friends for years, and of course I know building blocks of brilliance, right? Because that's your business. But what I always think of, and I always have a visual when I see building blocks of brilliance, and now I know it's not just this or that; it's this and that. And so what I would always see is I always see like littles, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, we're building the blocks of brilliance for the littles. But what you also said here was you said you're taking individuals that are brilliant and you're taking those and you're bridging and you're building those blocks of brilliance too. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, that is so beautiful. And that's what we feel. And that's what we experience. Part of the reason why I feel poured into is because I feel like every time I have a conversation with you, I feel like, okay, it's not just about you trying to show me how brilliant you are, or whatever, but it's about us. And it's about you showing me too how brilliant I am. I get a
Yes.
chance to express my brilliance in your presence without the green-eyed monster or any of that.
Mm-mm.
And it's just
I'm
like,
like,
yeah,
let's make it happen.
let's do it.
Remember you
Let's
talked to me
do this
about
together.
Q10 early
Yes,
days, and we talked
yes,
about this. I want to do this conference. Okay. Well, we're going to do it online, but I want it to be in person. Okay. Well, and we literally sat
yes.
on the phone and just dreamed. It's your dream. It's your baby. Like, okay, well, what if we tried this? What if you did this? Maybe you should call this person. You know who I should connect you with? It was like, and to be at the first in-person one, like
Wasn't it amazing?
flew from Cleveland, Ohio
Yes,
to California. And I remember there were times where I was just watching you walk around the room. Here
mm,
I am getting emotional. I was just watching the fact that people came together from Maryland, from places in California, from other states, because you
yes,
were diligent enough to sow into your vision more than just words. You were excellent right where you were to say, this is the dream.
yes,
Here's what people said I should do, shouldn't do. Here's how we're moving forward. And I've just seen you be diligent with this dream year after year. And every time I see an advertisement, I'm cheering. I'm
yes,
liking, I'm sharing
yes.
because as sisters in this mission, I want to see you thrive.
Thank you.
And I
I feel
recognize what a gift it is for you to allow me to see the underbelly of the thing to say, hey, this is
yes,
what the struggle is. This is what's going on. And you don't hide that from me. I don't take that lightly. When we are in relationship with one another, we don't have to have it all together. And there are times where we talk and I'm like, hey, this is the struggle or this was going on. There are times where there's tears. There's time where you know what you need to do. These are the connections that allow you to be propelled forward. If you are in leadership and you are isolated, then you're not doing leadership in a way that's sustainable. The
yeah,
isolation, maybe sometimes in the place where you work, you feel like you can't connect with people on that deep level. Find the people, and you can't force these connections. You have to find people at conferences, maybe that you end up sitting next to at the table, people where the conversation is easy, people who are honest and open and you don't even know them, people who are willing to sow into your vision. They don't have
yes,
to know you from the time you were born, but if you find people who are just willing to see you for who you are, to be open and honest and share, then you hold on to those people like Talisa and I have done. And we have other folks that we know in common that we know that we can go to, that we can talk to,
Yes.
that we can bounce things off of. And in fact, there are times, and it's been a little while, but where many of us come together and convene, not because there's a conference or because there's something going on, but because we need to be in each other's presence. And then we leave recharged, renewed, refilled, and sometimes sore from different activities like
Yes.
scootering that that have to happen. So I just say, find your people will find you. Be who you are. And if you have on any mask and you're finding people to connect to, you cannot create authentic relationships by being pretend.
Yeah.
So be your real self and find out the people who are locked into that, and you will grow exponentially.
Yes, and I'm laughing. We're laughing over here, and I know that our audience is probably gonna hate that. Like it's like we're laughing at an inside joke that no one has any insight to. So we're gonna give them a little insight. We actually did take a girls trip, and it was so much fun. But I know I had never ridden a scooter, and I was not gonna get on that scooter. And I think it was Dr. Novak was like, Katie Novak. She was like, you're gonna ride that scooter. I'm gonna teach you how. And she taught me how to ride the scooter, and I rode the scooter. And so I don't know if I've gotten back on. I probably would if I could find one, but I was so scared because I had never ridden a scooter before. But
At
it's
the
just,
end of the trip, you were like a pro. Y'all did like a parking lot tutorial. And then I think I had gone to get like a facial or something. And when I came back, I just saw you zoom past and I was like, okay, all right. I tried.
yes,
I put one foot on it and was like, this is not in my realm. So maybe next time.
next time, there will be a next time. So yes, thank you for that. Thank you for that laughter on today, just the memories. But yes, we are real sister girls and we do things together so that we can re-energize. And before I move on, I want to talk. This is gonna be a long interview, and so our audience is gonna have to either cut it short, do whatever they do, because this is where I could talk to you for hours, and so they're gonna get our real, true conversations. So I definitely want to talk a little bit about Q10, and then I want to ask some questions about UDL because we haven't talked anything about your work, and I want to get into that. I do want to thank you, for yes answering the call. Yeah, you showed up that year. You and we had so many amazing individuals, and people did come from all across the United States, and many came because of the mission and vision of Q10. They believe in the mission and vision. And I know I talked to some audience members too that was like, yeah, I saw that Tisha was going to be here. And so I wanted to come. So people did come, and that's an influence. And so I'm inviting you back. I'm inviting you back every year. Come, join us, get on stage, do what you do. So I'm inviting you to be in this space every single year. You make a difference, and I would love to have you. So I'm going to put that out there. And then I want to talk about UDL. So, in your work with UDL, tell us about that. How should that mindset shift for UDL, like the barriers that our students the barriers that our students face? How can we help our leaders and teachers with the mind shift? And so, when I talk about mind shift, I'm talking about decisions and making decisions. So, how can we help with
Mhm.
that?
So, just for those who don't know, Universal Design for Learning is a framework that helps teachers. It's really for how humans learn. So, it helps
Mhm.
teachers, it helps leaders, it helps practitioners, it helps researchers to think about how do we communicate in ways that are human centered. And that means that we don't just, like when I'm thinking from a leadership perspective, when we're having a meeting or professional learning, that means that we give learners multiple ways to engage with the content, that we use more than one representation. So maybe we're using pictures, words, stories, poems to communicate a message. And so learners can choose if they want to make it larger or smaller. They can have access to the slides. There's closed caption, whatever it is. And then multiple means of action and expression, meaning that we design to check for understanding. It's not just that as leaders, we say it and it's like, okay, well, they should have it. This creates lots of dissonance in organizations when we just give it, but we don't check in for understanding. And so that's multiple means of action and expression. So Universal Design for Learning has over 30 years of brain research into how humans learn. And So when we think about making decisions, we have to make sure that we've given the information in multiple ways so that everyone in our organizations has a chance to interact with that information. And we also have to check for understanding in a number of different ways. Checking for understanding also means that we are soliciting the voices of all of those in the organization. And so, if we are in a staff meeting, and let's say, for instance, and this has happened, this is a scenario that all of us will be familiar with. There's this awesome presentation or just a presentation, and then there is a 10-minute, any questions? Usually there's the 30 seconds of who's going to be first. It's not going to be me. I wonder if anybody's going to ask anything, but if they do ask, we're going to be in this meeting longer, so never mind. That's one way, and it usually does not solicit the voices of those who are either closest to the solution for the issue or who have the most impactful information, because maybe they don't want to raise their hand, maybe they don't want the microphone, maybe they don't feel like they have what it takes. And so we have to give multiple ways to take in those voices. So Universal Design for Learning would say, we have an electronic poll that people can respond to electronically, or they can write on sticky notes and put it up, or maybe they want to draw a diagram that really explains how they understand it. But we must check for understanding and give opportunity for folks to tell us what they know. So a lot of the work I do is in Universal Design for Learning, in the realm of instructional design, but also in decision making for
Mhm.
leaders, for teachers, for practitioners and researchers. Because if we can flex these inclusive habits of mind and think about how we can build organizations that are always presenting information in different ways, giving people the support that they need so they can take the space they need to be well, to be seen and to be heard, and then always checking in to make sure that there's this flow of information, then we are universally designing the experience that each day that workers and teachers will be able to make decisions about how they lead and how they teach, but it's all based on how students learn and what they need, and that we don't villainize difference or variability, but we celebrate it. And then people can
Mm.
customize the organization so that everyone gets what they need in a way that works for them with no shame, no blame, and no guilt.
Wow. Well, thank you. I know that I would have asked that question a little bit sooner, but we just kept going and we just kind of engaged in all of the dialogue. But I do want people to know what your work is about. And also, I don't know if I mentioned, but that you're the author of Universal Design for Learning and Anti-Racism. So for our Emblazing leaders out there, you got to get that book. You got to listen and learn some more about UDL and anti-racism. So thank you for your work. Thank you for all of the things that you do to pour in. I got one last question, and we're gonna release our audience. What is one leadership tip that you can give our Emblazing leaders? And I know that we've had some, but what is one leadership tip that you would actually leave them with as they go on their way today?
As you go on your way, be overly aware of who you are. And even if you are not in your dream situation or dream position, begin to craft it. Write down what it is that you want to do. In 2004, I read this book, and it was the question was, if money wasn't an issue and there was no constraints, what is it that you would want to do? And so I found that I was afraid to take off these little constraints that I put on myself. And I
Mhm.
had to sit down, buy a special notebook, and literally take the time to craft out, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I want to contribute to the world? What would be the ideal situation for me as a teacher, as a leader? What is it that I want to do? So this was in 2003 or 4, and I wrote down that I wanted to write a book and I wanted to spend
Mm.
time developing curriculum and helping teams to implement to best reach their students. I wrote this down, scribbled it in a little notebook in 2004, and it is exactly what I am living right now. So, what I say
Wow.
to you is dream big, dream unrestricted, dream in the color of yourself. Think about your own skills and your strengths and what gets on your nerves, and don't dream that. Dream
Oh,
what you want to do and what you would like to do and how you want to see the world shift and change as you walk in what you are called to do. So as an emblazing leader, as a leader who has been emblazed to do this work, dream big, don't play small, excel right where you are, and watch the world change because of you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
thank you
You got
so
me all
much.
riled up
Hey,
now.
no, I'm ready. I mean, I think maybe this could be something we do every day so that we can go into the world like every day with this energized charge to just dream big. So, and blazing leaders out there, thank you. Thank you to Dr. I'm going to put it out there because this work in the work in progress.
In progress.
The future Dr. Andratesha Fritzgerald, that she is amazing and that she just pours in continuously. Thank you so much. Have a great day, night, evening, wherever you are. We appreciate y'all and just continue to thrive.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.